After a decade of marriage, I thought I knew him. Then a waitress slipped me a note at dinner. He was here last night with someone else. Stunned, I tracked his credit card history. 5 different cities, 5 different women. Furious, I booked a flight to his next business trip destination. When he walked into the hotel lobby, smiling at his date, he froze, because I was sitting at the bar, waiting for him. I never thought I'd be the one writing a story like this. For 10 years, I believed I had a good marriage. A solid one. Nothing perfect, because no relationship is, but we were happy. Or at least I thought we were. I trusted my husband, Ryan. I never questioned his work trips, his late nights, the way he sometimes seemed distant after coming back from a trip. I chalked it up to stress. I told myself I was lucky. That we had built something real. And then one night, a waitress slipped me a note. It was just a crumpled receipt, something small enough to disappear into my palm. At first, I thought it was a mistake, maybe the check or some promotional thing the restaurant was doing. But when I unfolded it, my stomach dropped. He was here last night with someone else. I read it twice, then a third time. The words blurred. My ears started ringing. I looked up at the waitress. She was already gone, disappearing into the back like she hadn't just dropped a nuclear bomb onto my entire life. Ryan was sitting across from me, scrolling on his phone, completely unaware. Laughing at something, probably a stupid meme. I could hear my own heartbeat in my ears. I didn't say anything. Not right away. Instead, I excused myself to the bathroom, locked the stall, and just stood there, staring at the note, trying to process what I was looking at. Because there were only 2 possibilities. 1. Someone was messing with me. A cruel joke. A mistake. 2. My husband had been here, at this exact restaurant, while he was supposed to be in Houston on a business trip. I wanted to believe it was the first option. But deep down, I already knew it was the second. I sat down on the toilet, lid closed, fully clothed, and pulled out my phone. My hands were shaking so bad I could barely type. I opened our bank app, something I never really checked except for the occasional glance. I clicked on his credit card history. And my whole world cracked open. There it was. A transaction from last night. This restaurant. This exact restaurant. A dinner charge for 2. My stomach flipped. My hands moved on autopilot. I started scrolling through past transactions. Months and months of travel expenses. Hotels. Dinners. Spa visits. Room service. And suddenly I saw it. A pattern. 5 different cities. 5 different women. Houston. Miami. Denver. New York. Seattle. There were charges from all over. And they weren't just business expenses. They were dates. Dinners at nice places. Drinks at fancy bars. Weekend getaways that lined up with the times he told me he was working late, or catching a last-minute flight. And the worst part? I had never checked before. I had just trusted him. I sat there for what felt like an hour, just scrolling and scrolling, my stomach tying itself into knots. My face felt hot. My hands felt cold. And I knew, in that moment, I was done being the naive, trusting wife. Ryan had no idea I had this information. And I was about to make sure he never saw it coming. I walked out of that bathroom like a different person. Ryan was still sitting there, sipping his drink, completely unaware that the world he had built for himself was already burning down. I didn't say a word. I just sat across from him, staring at his face, trying to memorize every line feature. The way he smiled at me, completely at ease. The way his eyes crinkled at the corners when he asked, "Everything okay?" I wanted to scream. I wanted to flip the table over, throw my drink in his face, demand answers. But I didn't. Instead, I smiled. "Yeah," I said, voice steady. "Everything's fine." And in that moment, I made a decision. I wasn't going to confront him. Not yet. Because Ryan didn't deserve the truth right away. No. I wanted to watch him lie to me one more time. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed next to him, listening to his breathing, staring at the ceiling. Every time I closed my eyes, all I could see was that list of transactions. The hotels. The dinners. The secrets stacked on top of each other like a house of cards. And I kept thinking about the women. Who were they? Did they know about me? Were they just like me, believing his stories, trusting his words? Or were they part of it? By 4 a.m., I had scrolled so deep into his history that I started finding names. Because Ryan? Ryan was sloppy. There were Venmo payments with captions like, "for drinks," and "fun night." There were hotel reservations under different names, but the receipts were emailed to his personal account, the one he thought I never checked. And then I found her. The most recent one. The one he took to this restaurant. Her Instagram was linked to her Venmo. Her name was Sophie. Blonde. Younger than me. Maybe late 20s. I clicked through her profile, my pulse pounding. And there it was. A photo. Posted yesterday. At this restaurant. A dimly lit selfie, wine glass in hand, her lips curled into a smirk. And in the background? A man's arm. His watch. His sleeve. Ryan. She had captioned it, another amazing night with my favorite person. I gripped my phone so tight my fingers ached. He wasn't even careful. He wasn't even trying to hide it. And suddenly, I wasn't just heartbroken. I was furious. The next morning, Ryan kissed my forehead like nothing had changed. He poured himself coffee. He scrolled on his phone. He even hummed while getting ready for work, like a man with no worries in the world. I had to force myself to act normal. It took everything in me not to break down. Because I had a plan. Ryan's next business trip was coming up in 3 days. Los Angeles. And I was going to be there waiting for him. I told him I was visiting an old college friend in LA that weekend. He barely looked up from his laptop when I mentioned it. Just said, "Oh, cool. Have fun." Like he wasn't planning on spending the weekend with another woman. So I booked a flight. But unlike Ryan, I was careful. I used a different credit card. Booked a different hotel. I didn't want him to have any idea I was coming. And when his flight left, I waited an hour. Then I boarded my own. Los Angeles felt unreal. I checked into my hotel and immediately started tracking him. Yes, tracking. Because Ryan, the man who thought he was so smooth, had an iPhone. And 6 months ago, when we were at a concert and got separated in the crowd, he had shared his location with me. And never turned it off. I opened the app and there he was. His little dot, sitting in a fancy hotel 2 miles away. I sat on my bed, staring at the screen, my hands trembling. Because this was it. This was proof. And now I had a choice. Walk away. Pretend I never saw it. Let him keep lying to me, keep sneaking around until one day he decided I wasn't worth the effort anymore. Or go there. And end this on my terms. I didn't even hesitate. I threw on a dress. Did my hair. Put on makeup. And then I walked out of my hotel, ready for war. It was a short cab ride. Too short. My stomach was in knots the whole way there, my fingers digging into my purse so hard my nails left marks. And when I stepped into that hotel lobby, I felt ice cold. I spotted the bar instantly. Dim lighting. Soft music. Couples in quiet corners, heads tilted close. And then, him. Ryan. Sitting at the bar. Smiling. Laughing. And right next to him? Sophie. Dressed in red, hand on his thigh, looking at him like he hung the damn moon. Like I used to look at him. My vision tunneled. My pulse roared in my ears. Ryan leaned in, whispering something in her ear, and she giggled. I had seen enough. I walked straight to the bar. Sat down 2 seats away. And then I did the thing I had been waiting to do since the second I found that note. I spoke. Wow. Small world, huh? Ryan froze. His entire body went rigid, like someone had poured ice water down his back. Sophie frowned, looking between us. Ryan? Who is this? Ryan didn't answer. His eyes were locked on mine, face drained of color. I tilted my head, smiling. Yeah, Ryan? Who am I? Ryan looked like he was about to be sick. Sophie turned back to him, eyes narrowing. Ryan, what the hell is going on? He finally moved, just a twitch, just enough to turn slightly away from me. Like if he angled himself just right, I might disappear. But I wasn't going anywhere. I grabbed my drink, swirling it lazily. Oh, don't let me interrupt, I said, keeping my voice calm, controlled. You were saying? Sophie looked even more confused. Wait. How do you know him? I let the silence hang for a second. Let it stretch just long enough for Ryan to sweat. Then I said it. Oh, we've been married for 10 years. Sophie sucked in a breath. Ryan flinched like I had slapped him. His hand twitched toward his drink, but he didn't pick it up. He just sat there, trapped. I could feel people watching now. The bartender. The couple 2 seats down. A man at the end of the bar, pretending not to eavesdrop. Good. I wanted an audience. Sophie finally turned to Ryan, eyes flashing. Tell me she's lying. Ryan opened his mouth. Closed it. Looked at me. Then at her. And I could see the exact moment he realized there was no way out. His expression crumbled. Baby, I can explain, he said. Baby. Baby. I actually laughed. Oh, Ryan. I shook my head, taking a slow sip of my drink. That's the best you've got. Sophie pushed back from the bar, shoving her chair back so hard it scraped against the floor. Are you serious? She snapped. You told me you were divorced. My eyebrows lifted. Divorced? So not only was he a liar, but he was a lazy one. Couldn't even come up with something original. Ryan reached for Sophie's hand, but she yanked it away like he was contagious. No, don't touch me, she snapped. Then she turned to me. You said 10 years? I nodded, sipping my drink. She let out a shaky breath. He told me he was divorced 3 years ago. 3 years. So he had been feeding her this lie for 3 whole years. I didn't know whether to laugh or slap him. The bartender looked like he wanted to disappear. The couple next to us had stopped pretending they weren't listening. The guy at the end of the bar was openly grinning. Ryan, to his credit, at least tried to do damage control. Listen, he started, voice low, as if whispering would make this situation better. Can we just talk somewhere private? I let out a snort. Private? I gestured around the bar. Buddy, I think we're past that. Sophie grabbed her purse. Oh my God! She muttered under her breath, eyes wild. I need to get out of here. She turned to leave, but I wasn't done. Not yet. Hey, Sophie? She stopped, hesitated. I pulled my phone from my bag, tapped a few buttons, then slid it across the bar toward her. It was open to Ryan's credit card statements. She leaned in, eyes scanning the screen, her brows knitting together. Then, slowly, her face fell. Because it wasn't just her name in there. It was 4 others. 5 cities. 5 women. And now she knew she wasn't special either. Sophie let out a short, humorless laugh. Wow, she said, shaking her head. Then she turned to Ryan. You are so much worse than I thought. Ryan reached for her again. Come on, babe, don't. She cut him off. Don't babe me. She snapped. I don't even know who the hell you are. Then she turned and walked out. And now, it was just me and Ryan. Exactly how I wanted it. He exhaled hard, rubbing a hand over his face. His shoulders slumped, his whole body deflating like a popped balloon. And for the first time, he looked afraid. I smiled. So, honey. I leaned forward, folding my hands under my chin. Tell me, how long were you planning on keeping this up? Ryan swallowed, his Adam's apple bobbing. Can we just, no? He flinched. I tilted my head. You want to know something funny? He didn't answer. I pulled out another phone. Not mine. His. Ryan's face went sheet white. Because he knew what was coming. Because he thought he was so smart. So careful. But while he was in the shower that morning, I had cloned his phone. And now? I had everything. The messages. The emails. The hotel confirmations. And now, Ryan was about to find out what it felt like to be completely powerless. Ryan stared at the phone in my hand like it was a live grenade. His face had gone completely pale, his fingers twitching at his sides, his eyes darting between me and the screen. He knew. He knew exactly what I had found. And now he was trapped. I let the moment stretch, let the tension coil so tight that the air between us felt suffocating. I wanted him to sit in it. To feel every second of the walls closing in on him. The bar had gone quiet. Even the bartender had stopped pretending to polish glasses. People were watching. Listening. Good. Ryan licked his lips, swallowed, then forced a chuckle. A weak, desperate little sound. All right, he said, rubbing the back of his neck. So maybe I made some mistakes. I almost laughed. Mistakes. Mistakes. Like he had accidentally cheated in 5 different cities. Like he had just stumbled into multiple affairs. I tilted my head. Ryan, if you want to call serial infidelity a mistake, I think you need a dictionary. His jaw tightened. I saw the flicker of something in his eyes, annoyance, maybe. Like I was being unreasonable. That was always his way. If he couldn't charm his way out, he'd turn it on me. Not this time. He exhaled hard, shaking his head. Look, I know you're mad. Mad? I let out a sharp laugh. Oh, Ryan. I am so far past mad. I stepped closer, lowering my voice, but keeping it firm. I am done. I am done being lied to. I am done playing the fool. And I am done letting you control the narrative. Ryan's nostrils flared. You're making a scene. I smiled. No, Ryan. You made the scene. I held up the phone. I'm just making sure everyone hears the whole story. The bartender, bless his nosy little heart, whistled. A few people chuckled. Ryan's hands clenched into fists. His whole body tensed, like he wanted to explode, but he couldn't. Not here. Not with all these people watching. I leaned in, just close enough to drop my final blow. I read the texts, Ryan. His breath hitched. I watched his entire face crumble. Because now, there was no spinning it. No excuses. No charm. No way out. He knew exactly what text I was talking about. The love messages he sent to Sophie. And to Kate. The one from Miami. And B from New York. The texts about how I was cold and boring, and how he was so tired of pretending with me. How he was waiting for the right time to leave. I had read every single word. And now, so had Sophie. Because while Ryan had been panicking over me, she had been reading them over my shoulder. Her face was stone cold. Her voice was deadly quiet. "Wow," she murmured. "You really said you loved me?" Ryan spun toward her, eyes wide. "Babe, come on, Sophie slapped him. A clean, sharp, perfect slap that rang through the whole damn bar. The bartender gasped. Someone whistled. A woman near the corner murmured, "Oh, damn." Ryan staggered back, clutching his cheek. Sophie grabbed her bag, turned to me, and nodded. "I'm sorry you had to find out like this." I gave her a small nod back. And then she walked out. And just like that, it was just us. Husband and wife. The liar and the fool. Ryan swallowed, his jaw tight. "You're enjoying this, aren't you?" I tilted my head. "Oh, Ryan. You have no idea." His eyes darkened. "You think you're gonna win here? You think this is gonna ruin me?" I smirked. "Oh, honey." I pulled out my actual phone and wiggled it in front of him. "I already sent the screenshots to your boss." His face fell apart. Because Ryan worked for a company that had a morality clause. Extramarital affairs? Not great for business. And now they knew everything. The color drained from his face so fast I thought he might faint. "No, you wouldn't." I took one last sip of my drink, savoring the moment. Then I set the glass down. "Watch me." And I walked out. Ryan called. Over and over. Begging. Pleading. Then screaming. Then blaming. "You ruined my life." He spat in one voicemail. "Do you even realize what you've done?" Oh, I knew. I had filed for divorce the next morning. I took half of everything. The apartment? Sold. My share of his retirement? Mine now. His reputation? In shreds. And Ryan? He was fired by the end of the week. Turns out, when your job relies on people trusting you, being outed as a lying, cheating snake doesn't exactly help. And the women? All gone. The last I heard, he was living in a cheap rental in some forgettable suburb, trying to scrape together his wrecked career. Alone. Meanwhile, me? I was in Italy. Sipping wine. Free. And for the first time in 10 years, I could finally breathe.